Hey, Trader Steven here with TradersPlan.com. I'm recording this at the close on Thursday, sending this out on Friday, January 28th, last Friday of the month. And as usual, this is our top ETFs video of the week. So I'm going to look at the market real quick, and then we're going to get into the top ETFs. I just want to look at the NASDAQ because it really, got slaughtered on Wednesday. You can see down 2.6%, but, it really came right back. At this point in time, obviously I don't know if this is a warning shot and we're going to continue because, you had some kind of shakeouts right here when the trend first got started. You had kind of a wild day right there. So, I mean, these kind of shakeouts can happen and kind of suck all the bears in and keep going. But, so far it hadn't even broken the 20-day moving average yet. So until that happens, I'm just going to continue to assume. I kind of have like a warning, a yellow caution sign right now based on Wednesday's price action because usually it could come in bunches. There could be more. I would probably even welcome a test of the 50-day moving average. But so we'll just kind of have to wait and see and take this day by day. Pay attention. Since we're in a strong market, just kind of pay attention to the individual stocks and don't always get hung up on the headlines and the overall market unless it's really ugly. So let's look at the top ETFs. Let's start on the current week, right? So we can see, what's up a lot. Surprise, surprise, this video game ETF, that holds GameStop. I mean, this story is absolutely hilarious, but, this isn't something I'm getting involved in, right? Because the ETF, even though it's up the most this week, but it holds GameStop, it was a high of 120 and a low of 88. That's an ETF, had that wide of a range. So I'm staying away from that kind of volatility. You see some commodities here in the top 10 for current week. The Nat Gas ETF was up 7.5%, is now above the 50-day moving average. But, as of right now, this is still in a death cross. This is, still a downtrend. So I'm just going to assume, that it's going to continue with the trend. Yes, it could eventually come out of here, but I mean, this has been in a downtrend for a very long time. So until I kind of see a breakout and then a breakout of a consolidation, I'm going to assume that these commodities are just going to be more of the same. Now, corn, has had a golden cross. You got the 50 above the 200-day, and it has had a really, really nice trend. So, I mean, this is more something to kind of pay attention to versus Nat Gas because this trend right here obviously looks different than every other kind of counter trend rally, right? You got a major counter trend rally. I'd really, really like to see kind of a first major multi-week, even a test of the 50-day moving average and then a breakout of that high before I get overly excited in this commodity. One ETF that does look good in my opinion is Brazil. Now, we traded this a while back. I think on the first day I was really talking about this was right here on November 5th when it was breaking through the 200 and the 50-day moving average at the same time, right? That was bullish. And it made a really nice run. And then it's been consolidating for the last couple months, which is completely normal and totally fine. So now looking at it, you can see that you had a little support that was broken, but it's kind of all around the same area. It broke the 50-day moving average, but really when you have an ETF, the moving average support doesn't play as big of a role versus stocks because it's a basket of stocks. But, you had a break, but, it's kind of consolidating. If you look at it, let's just draw a line across here. All right. So you had 15 that was resistance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, then broke through. Now could potentially become support, 1, 2, right? So you had major resistance, turns into support. I think if this busts through the 50-day moving average, I'd put a buy on that with a stop. Let me kind of clean this up. With a stop under the recent lows. And if you look at it on the weekly chart, you can see right here, you have a weekly reversal pattern. So that's a very, very bullish pattern. Looks bullish to me. Needs one more day to complete. Something else that really, really caught my attention in the top 10 is silver. Now, I was really pounding. So you have, let's just look at this for a second. SLV, you got a major uptrend, right? you got a downtrend. You can call this a bull flag, consolidation, you can call it whatever you want, but you can see right here that it broke out. And when it broke out, I was really bullish on this, right? And then it pulled back and the bullishness kind of went away because it went nowhere. But really all it did was it just pulled back really hard. And then it's testing this trend line right here, plus the 50-day moving average right here. So you kind of have multiple support zones. And then you got a major volume pop on Thursday. To me, that's a buy signal because what happened was, it broke out, it pulled back, it kind of frustrated some people, me included right here. Now, all of a sudden, it's starting to wake up. So that's bullish to me. If you want to be more conservative, you can wait as it breaks above here and kind of put a stop under here, under Wednesday's low, and just play it that way. But this looks honestly pretty good to me. And even if I go over to the mining ETF, I like what I see here because, you have really the same thing. You have a breakout, right? And you can draw the trend line in several places. But now something interesting happened on Wednesday, like when the market got shook. It cracked the 200-day moving average in a really ugly day, right? It tried to break down, right? It broke below the long-term moving averages. But, to me, so far, it looks like that was a false breakdown because it shot right back up, right? Support came in. And, normally what's happening is when you get this breakdown, you're like, oh, okay, the bears are in charge, it's going to come. But a lot of times when you have something that's pretty strong, and I would say from 16 to 53 is pretty strong, the fact that it's consolidated for a few months, 3 months, to me is just bullish, right? Because, after you have a triple, you need time to take a breather. So, it broke out, came back, tested the trend line, tried to break down, came back. To me, that's a buy signal with a stop under the recent lows. I like this kind of false breakdown could all of a sudden start to, because it really sucked in. A lot of people say, oh, look, that's bearish, came right back. That's when it takes off after it frustrates the living bejesus out of everybody. So I like this setup. I like this trade. Let's go to the 1 month chart because those are really the only two setups I like. If we kind of go back to the 1 week, I like the Brazil. In the short term, we look at this. I like the silver plus the silver miners. I think those are some bullish ETFs setting up that aren't quite extended. Now, even though these aren't extended, the overall market is. And at the end of the day, these, if the market, has a 7 to 10% pullback, which, seems likely at some point in time, these are going to pull back with it, right? This is a stock at the end of the day, so it's unlikely to completely buck the trend, but it could hang in there. Now, if we go back to the 1 month, right, what is the strongest in the last 1 month, right? The video game ETF, I'm not going to talk about that. But, you have cannabis right here. So you have the POTX ETF, right? And this is very nice because you have, what looks like, you can kind of just draw a box. The industry was in a downtrend. Then you have a first stage rectangle pattern that really has been going on for 12 months. Now all of a sudden you have a breakout. You have a breakout and it's trying to build a consolidation above the first stage breakout. So I do like this trade. To me, I think it needs to probably consolidate a little bit more pause because it went from 990, it went from 9 to 15. This was a 50% move incredibly quickly. So I might see if it just goes sideways for a little bit. I think that would be incredibly healthy. If it doesn't, then you could definitely, buy the breakout, buy it on its way up. But I'm not so certain I would buy while it's trying to consolidate because that could happen for a while. For this one, I'd probably take the more conservative approach and let it break out on the way up. But this is bullish. You have the MJ ETF that, really looks pretty similar. I could draw kind of the same box around this first stage rectangle pattern, right, that has lasted exactly 1 year, and then it broke out at the same time and now it's trying to consolidate. So what's really good about the cannabis ETF is, look, on these kind of thrust up, look, it went from 10 to 12, 20%. Look at the volume. Look at the volume when it went from 10 to 15, and then it went from 14 to 20. You got some major kind of skyscraper volume. So I think there's a lot of players really stepping in. Let me kind of draw this line so it's crystal clear. I'd kind of prefer more a pullback to the 16 area or a breakout above this level, above last week's high. But I've said this before and I'm going to say this again. I think when you're talking about the cannabis industry, I think you really want to look at it as a potential long-term investment instead of a really, really short-term swing trade, because I think there's just so much upside. You know, we just now got into this new administration, and obviously, you know, some of this administration is already cooked into what's happening. But I just think there's a lot of long-term upside, you know, especially if a lot of these municipalities, you know, really start to legalize to cover some of their budget shortfalls. I think that's just going to be more widely accepted. More and more states are going to be doing this, especially going from medical to recreational. So I think the industry definitely has some strength, but you know, we'll just kind of take this day by day. 3D printing, I haven't even looked at this ETF. Yeah, I mean, if you look at this on the daily chart, this really is extended. So, you know, for me, something this extended, I mean, I would look for it for a pullback way down here. So I'm probably not going to touch that. You got the rare earth metal. This is a pretty good looking chart right here. You had, you know, surge off the bottom, a nice cup with handle pattern, and then it's just gone straight up. So again, you know, something like this, for me, it needs a consolidation or a deeper pullback, because what happens is if you buy these things that have gone up, you know, 50, 75%, and they haven't even consolidated yet, you're going to get shaken out of it. So I'm looking for something else here. So this is something that's interesting, is this China ETF, KWEB right here, KWEB. And I talked about this a couple weeks ago, right as it was breaking out. And, you know, it's just really interesting. I think that there could be, I mean, these ETFs, let me go to the monthly chart right here, you know, have really underperformed for a very, very long time. And they're very, very aggressive stocks. They're very high growth stocks. So, you know, now they're starting to break out. Now they're really, really starting to move. So if this pulls back kind of in the 80 zone, maybe 80 to 82 zone, and you do like the ETF, you do like the theme, I think that would be a great opportunity to hop on board and see if it can kind of pull back and then bounce out of there. This is a very fast moving ETF, so a lot of the individual stocks are, but you kind of see right here, you know, in this 1 month, you have more China ETFs that are kind of in the top because, you know, they're really, really starting to run. I mean, look at this ETF. This ETF is still below its 2015 high. So, you know, when a China bull market gets going, man, it can really get going. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But it's always interesting when I see industries or even countries that have really gone sideways for years and years and years and years, as the Chinese stock market has. And all of a sudden, when they start to wake up, man, they can really outperform for, you know, 5 to 10 years. I'm talking very, very significantly. So I would just really kind of pay attention to that. So one more thing I wanted to look at is the Bitcoin ETF. Now, this is interesting because, you know, it made a major, major move, right, from 10 to 48. It pulled back to the 50-day moving average for the first time since October. Right, the first time it's touched the 50-day moving average for the first time since October, and it reversed off it. I did buy some on Wednesday, right, and so far it seems to be working on late Thursday at the close on Thursday. I don't know if this is going to hold, but you know, the way I see it, if you know, this is crypto, so obviously it's still the wild, wild west. But I mean, the way I see it, if you're looking to swing the bat, I mean, I got stopped out of crypto up here after a really, really nice move. So I made a lot of money off crypto and Riot and all that stuff. Got stopped off, but now it pulled back to support. I mean, if this support holds, this could be a really, really nice opportunity. If it goes under Wednesday's low, forget about it. The trade's over. Right now, it's already kind of looking a little steep, right? Because now you're probably going to have to risk 20%, right? Because the low, let me look at this. The low is 28.44, so I don't know where it's going to open on Friday, but I mean, it could absolutely crash, and I would get stopped out right there, which I have no problem doing because I made quite a bit over here. But I'm just saying, like this, if you're looking for an opportunity for a pullback, I think this is a great time, but it is crypto. So, with something like that, full disclosure, don't invest anything in anything crypto that you cannot afford to lose. So play money only with something like this.